This week I've been thinking a lot about intuition. And someone said, what's the difference between intuition and wishful thinking? Which I think is actually a really great question. And there's a couple different ways to answer it, honestly. Number one, I think it feels different in the body when you're really in tune with your intuition. And I think for me at this point, I would even say my intuition is my spirit guides. I think there's even another level to it now, but it feels very different in the body than wishful thinking. Sometimes I can almost feel that wishful thinking isn't what's best for my highest self. I think one of the best examples of this, maybe in pop culture, is the movie Bruce Almighty, where Jim Carrey becomes God and you see him answering everybody's prayers. And he's like, I'm giving everybody everything that they wanted. Why isn't anybody happy? So I think that is a really good example of wishful thinking. And I know that's prayer in that way, which maybe could be a slippery slope, maybe offensive, I don't know. But it shows, I think, in that movie, how just wishing for something, praying for something, doesn't always mean it's what's best for you and for your higher self. So I think that intuition and wishful thinking maybe feel very different in the body. And if you're just starting to really pay attention to your intuition and you're wondering what I'm talking about, it takes a while. It takes practice, honestly. And it takes a real truthfulness when you're coming to it. So there's a couple different ways. I would start with something small. I wouldn't start betting on horses to test your intuition. I would maybe in the morning, if you're gonna go to the gym and you're thinking maybe I want to wear black leggings or blue leggings or a t-shirt or a tank top or shorts or pants, whatever it may be, right? Or if I think that I should take this street to the gym instead of this street, I should take that route instead of that route when I'm coming home. Just start noticing those patterns and what it feels like when you're making that decision. And then later on, are you thinking, dang, you know what? I really should have taken that other route. I knew I should have, and now I'm sitting in traffic. Just take a note of it, right? Note how you maybe felt in the body at that time. It's going to take practice. You have to make mistakes in order to develop your intuition. There's no way around it. So if you think you're going to get out of making mistakes by learning to trust your intuition, no. The learning part is making mistakes. Trust me. And that's another thing on self trust because intuition requires such a high level of self trust. But even then, right, it is like self trust, as in trusting yourself to trust yourself. There are things that my intuition, my spirit guides, whatever it may be, are absolutely telling me is the right thing. And I know it. I know it because I've developed this feeling over time. I know what it feels like. I recognize it and I'm still ignoring it because I am fearful, maybe, of what could be down that path. So, also, just because you get aligned with your intuition, we're still human. There is still the action that needs to take place on the other side of that. And I think to orient intuition is orientation. So when we are developing intuition, it's about wanting to live aligned with our higher selves, wanting to move towards our purpose. And that should really look like flowing down a river. Okay. And there's a couple different analogies, of course, that you can go with, but it should look like flowing down a river. And sometimes it's a lazy river, it's moving way too slow for what you would prefer, right? Sometimes it is filled with rapids and you're yeeted out of the raft, okay? And you're paddling around, but you're still flowing down this river. It's not always going to feel great. It's not always going to feel good. It might be scary. It might be frustrating. It might be boring. I don't know. But there's a really big difference between that and maybe where we get into the wishful thinking or the permission slip realm. I think it could be very easy to slip into giving yourself permission to everything because we're labeling it intuition. I think a lot of people are misusing the idea of, well, that's my truth these days. I think they're really weaponizing therapy speak essentially because when you have a developed intuition, it's not always the answer that maybe you would choose. You might choose the opposite answer, actually, but your intuition is telling you this one thing, right? And so we need to recognize if we are flowing down that river. Again, maybe it's not always the most fun, but are we flowing down the river or are we just meeting brick wall after brick wall after brick wall? Are things unusually difficult? Are you meeting an unusual amount of roadblocks? Are your relationships breaking down? That can be a signifier that maybe we are not in the river, right? We are running into walls. And so I think that's where we need to start small, right? That's why I'm saying don't go betting on horses, don't go to the casino, because we need to find that balance. We need to be able to trust that it's our intuition and not impulse, not a permission slip, right? Intuition is orientation. Your guides or whatever it may be should not be orienting you to run face first into a wall. Okay. That really shouldn't be happening. Sometimes when things are not working out, when they're exceptionally challenging, I mean, that's orientation in a way too, right? Because we're supposed to pivot. We're supposed to recognize that as not for us or not at this time. That is a closed door. But again, learning to recognize when that is happening can be a little difficult. I mean, I think it just takes time. And I think that's why it's important too to start with tiny decisions. And if I were telling somebody who wants to start from scratch, and particularly somebody with anxiety maybe and tarot, spirituality, all of this, not a bypass for therapy, right? We need to go to therapy if we have real issues, okay? I mean, everyone I think should go to therapy, but the higher stakes could throw a little bit of a spin on it if we're not in tune with our intuition. But even then, I don't know if for me, I'm thinking of some of these larger decisions, and we're human at the end of the day. So we're trying to avoid pain, we're trying to avoid negativity, right? Human beings are wired to avoid loss at the end of the day. So that's why I think starting small. But if I were starting from scratch, I really would just pick up a journal because I think we need to understand our internal ecosystem first. So I would pick up a journal, I would just write whatever. I may say meditate, but I think meditating is a little bit more of an advanced skill. I don't think we are honest about how difficult meditating is because it is one of the most accessible things that you can do. It is so incredibly helpful mentally, spiritually, but it is difficult. I don't know. I think there's a level of difficulty to find the time to carve out. Do start with 30 seconds. I would start with 5 minutes, to be honest. I think 30 seconds is a little too short to even begin, but find 5 minutes where you can really sit in a quiet corner, a closet, whatever it may be, even in your car, maybe before you go into the office, and try to really set in. But I think meditating is difficult. So trying to do the practice of meditation on top of the practice of understanding or learning your intuition, I don't know. You tell me if you try them both at the same time how that works out for you. I haven't, so I can't really say, but I feel like that would be difficult. But picking up a journal and really understanding our internal ecosystem as it is, I think would be one of the most helpful things. And then taking a week or so to just notice how you're showing up. Notice those moments when you're thinking, ah, man, you know what? I really did think I should do X. Or, ah, you know what? That person really was a snake at the end of the day. Just start noticing when those like extra feelings start bubbling up because intuition doesn't feel like anxiety. It does feel like a knowing. It feels like a little bit of a light bulb or like a hey, let's notice this thing, right? Hey, let's pay attention. It's a little bit of a flag. And I think intuition is a gateway, like I said, into larger conversations about self. Intuition can lead us to a path of, hey, am I living aligned? Am I living in communion and conversation with my higher self? And I don't think that everyone is necessarily meant to live an aligned life. I don't know. That's a much larger spiritual conversation. But I think people who are watching this video or thinking about intuition do want to be an active participant in their life. They do want to live on purpose. And if you want to live on purpose, really tapping into your intuition is a great way to do that. Because if you're like me, I think it's my spirit guides at this point and a higher power, a higher consciousness, and whatever you want to label that is completely fine with me. But it does orient us towards these things. And I mean, with my intuition and this river that I've been on, yes, it has led me down some really challenging paths. I have hit some rapids, guys. I have hit some rapids, some what feels like life altering rapids, and then it becomes very clear and smooth, and it's like everything makes sense in reverse, of course. So I'm not saying it's been easy, but following my intuition, following these moments have led me here. And where I am now is at the threshold of the next thing. I'm so excited to be making tarot content, doing tarot readings. If I wasn't reading tarot, I feel like I would be missing an arm, honestly. This is my passion. It's what I love doing. I'm simply putting these things out here because I enjoy doing it. There's literally no ulterior motive than I love doing this and I love that people love it too. And I love having conversations. So I do believe your intuition can't really steer you wrong, but again, we can very easily get into the do I want to say victimhood conversation? Maybe, but that might be for another video. But that permission slip, right? Your intuition is not telling you to have a cupcake for every meal at every day. It's just not. Me, looking at my Diet Coke off camera that I have every single day. My intuition is not telling me to do that. It might even be telling me to not do that. I don't think so. It again, I think once you develop your intuition over time, it's really for the larger things for the most part. But if your intuition is telling you to have a cupcake for every meal of every day, we're probably listening to a different voice on that one. Okay. So, what I would do, I would pick up a journal, 100%. I know, very typical, bland spiritual advice. I get it, but it really does work. It really does work. It sucks, but it works. I would pick up a journal so you can really understand your internal ecosystem. You can also write out the feelings like, hey, I really thought I should do this, but I didn't. And then I felt this, and just go through those thought paths in your journal and write it out. That can be really, really helpful. I have been able to parse through a lot of problems or scenarios just by writing it out. I don't know what it is, but I would get a journal and I would also, again, just take a week to notice when I didn't pay attention to that voice or that feeling or that prickly feeling, right? Or that feeling in your gut, whatever it is, what happened next? Maybe nothing happened. Maybe later on you realized, oh, again, I should have taken that route because now I'm in traffic. So just noticing those things, and you could just keep building and building and building over time. And then I think your intuition will take you on the path that you're meant to be on. And again, for me, my intuition is more spirit guides these days. So it could and it probably will morph. from when you first start, and you have to make mistakes. You have to make mistakes. You cannot get in tune with your intuition without making mistakes. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's part of learning what that feeling is and is not. So be prepared to make mistakes. It is okay. We are human after all, but get out there, get a journal, start making mistakes.